Ciao, Juventini, and welcome to episode 101 of the All JuveCast. And we're coming off a 2-2 draw with Atalanta in what was a crucial matchup, and very undeserved draw. In I think both of our opinions, as I have a great Juventino ready to recap this one with me. Eric, who's no stranger to the podcast, gonna break this one down with me. How you doing, man?
I'm doing pretty good, man. Obviously not feeling great after yesterday's performance, but we'll get into that.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, let's get right into it because there's going to be no shortage of stuff to go over after the end between tweets from other Juventini and player ratings and sorry and the whole scudetto race as a whole. So let's kick it off with the lineups. Juve versus Atalanta. When we received our lineup, we had Szczesny in goal, Quadrado and Danilo at fullback, and then Delict, Bonucci in the center back positions. Then in the middle of the park, we had Matuidi on the left side with Bentancur right in the heart with Rabiot over on the right. Bernardeschi, Dybala, and Ronaldo rounding out the side up top. Immediately, I saw what could possibly be exposed on the left side, have Matuidi and Danilo there. That was my biggest question mark with this. Not only that, but starting to kind of go away from some things that were working, which was Rabiot on that left side. Maybe Pjanic, I was okay with him not being started. However, again, it's going away from something that kind of had been working, which was just have Bentancur there and then eventually take over completely that role. And it also kept Rabiot on the left side. So it was a bit nerve-wracking just because why are we kind of shifting when we don't have to against Atalanta, who's coming in red hot on 9 straight victories. So what were your thoughts on that lineup, Eric?
To be honest with you, I was in full support of it. I am one of those, Pjanic to me is checked out. So to not see him in the starting lineup, I thought was beneficial to our squad because what we've been lacking the last 4 or 5 matches is that our holding midfielder seems to just show up in spurts throughout the match. So I thought having this midfield 3, I was like, well, it'd be nice to have 3 midfielders that are going to be completely active the entire match, or at least until they get subbed off. I have made comments about Rabiot playing on the right versus playing on the left. I think he's not comfortable on the right. So when I saw the lineup, I was in full support because I think from an individualistic standpoint, that is our best midfield. But in the positions that they're playing, they are not the best midfield options. So I think you have to keep Rabiot on the left. I was not worried about the left side between Matuidi and Danilo because Matuidi will make forward runs where Alexandro would usually stop. And then I think positionally, Danilo, and I'm going to get a lot of flack for this, I do think positionally Danilo plays that left back role better than Alexandro because of where he can find space. His just execution's not there. But I'm not looking at Danilo to be the guy that goes in and makes huge crosses. I just need him to take out certain players of the opposing team, and he can do that. So the left side, I don't think took a huge hit in my mind when I saw the starting lineup. So I was comfortable with this going into it. The only wild card for me was Rabiot on the right.
Yeah. Okay. Which is fair. Yeah. I just I don't know. I think again, Matuidi, I like him coming later into the match when we're in a position where it can kind of maybe put some away, just hang on to something or whatnot. I don't know, from the start, I don't know, against a side where they play a 3-4-3, they flood the middle, I just see like technical ability has to be on point in the middle of the park. So that was kind of where I was going with that on the left side. But let's get to the match. And 5th minute, didn't take very long. Zapata with like a free header He misses high, Duvan Zapata there, and I'm just thinking right away, how in the hell is he getting a free header 5 minutes into this match? The communication there, it looked like De Ligt was getting sucked over before the cross was coming in, and Bonucci not only didn't communicate that this guy was on his back shoulder, but didn't even step in to kind of fill that hole, and he was on nobody again. So yeah, that was kind of alarming. 11th minute, Ilicic ends up with a ton of space at the top of the area, misses wide, and this whole opportunity, Danilo getting beat very, very badly, like right in the midfield. Guy just blows right by him, and at that point, take the yellow card, man. Like if you're caught that bad, like just take that yellow.
Right.
So it was just like, Danilo, man, come on. 16th minute, Dybala looked foul to me. Regardless, we had 2 players for sure, possibly 3, throwing their hands up, looking for the call. And it prevented them from immediately getting to the position they needed to be to shut the play down, and they didn't. Ball gets to Zapata, who plays it to Gomez, who actually, just made a quick cut back and caught De Ligt off. Lays the ball right in front of Zapata, who ends up burying. And Bentancur, not a defender, but he's got to realize he can't give that lane right into goal. He kind of let off once Zapata played the ball to Gomez, and then Zapata made his run, and Bentancur was completely caught off. We had our watch party, obviously, for this match with the La Panquina YouTube channel, and I said right there, Bentancur's got it. If he's filling in and he's doing that, he's got to be better there. And I got heat from the other guys because they're just saying he's always going to get out-muscled there, and I'm like, that's fine. But the guy literally can't run right through him. Yep. He's just got to force him outside. I was like, that's all he has to do in that scenario. So it was frustrating, but Atalanta came out hard, and we looked so sloppy and flat. 50, and this was the 16th minute that they're 1-0 up, and I'm thinking, man, we've got to turn it around or this could get ugly. I started thinking, that's how I was thinking. So what were you thinking at this 1-0 point and how the match started?
So that was immediately after Atalanta touched the ball for 8 minutes. So Juventus had not even touched the ball for 8 minutes leading up to that goal. So from minute 8 to minute 16 when they scored, they controlled that entire match. We had 0 possession. So what I started to get angry about is that, and it goes on later through the matches, and I don't know if it's a fitness thing, because I don't know what their training regimen is like, but what I can't stand is when we start pressing. In those moments, you have to you have to press. You have to put pressure on them. So we'll see one player, 2 players try to press, and then everybody stays back, and then they'll move the ball or switch field, and then 1 player or 2 players. So at that point in time, I'm thinking there's no continuity. Everybody seems to be lethargic, and they're not kind of working as a unit. They're not working as a team, because had we started to press them as a team in 4s and 5s and starting putting pressure on there, odds are we force them into an error, we probably get the ball. So at this point in time, I'm already pissed off because the mood on the pitch from our squad is not good. It's lethargic. No one just seems to be interested in doing any of the dirty work, and that's what this team lacks. So if they held the ball for 8 minutes, the only other thing that I can think of at this point is that we are either going to start pressing them way more now, and this game is going to start opening up, or Atalanta we're going to start defending a little bit more, even though that's not their style, because they know that if we go attack for attack, that they can probably hold the ball a lot more. So I thought them going up first was a little bit more beneficial in getting us mentally in the game, so that we started to make some presses. We started to push the issue, get some guys on guys. That's one thing that they did in order to win the ball back is that everybody was pressing our players. They were on our players like glue. So they allotted us zero time on the ball. So I thought we needed to do that to them.
Yeah, well, absolutely. I mean, our ball winning abilities in this one were disgusting right off the hop. And we'll get to that and the issues that creates, obviously. But Delict had a scary moment. Obviously, like we had this shoulder thing that seems like this shoulder's always an issue. I joked about it while we were watching the watch party. I said, yeah, it's probably the army's always holding up Bonucci with, but in the 22nd, he actually gets stomped like right in the junk, and I'm just like, holy Christ! And this kid gets up, he's just like drinks some water, comes right back in the match. I'm like, you're beautiful.
Yeah, like it never happened.
You know? Yeah, like I'm just like, man, I got that feeling in my guts watching it, and I'm just like, holy Christ! But the guy's a beast. Love seeing that from him, but we just need that from everybody, you know. And then it made me think about that call that everybody was lobbying for on Dybala and the goal and stuff, and I'm like, man, like look to this kid, you guys, you know, like fucking fight. And it was so frustrating because, you know, you spoke on it, and like it took so much for us just to win possession back, and then at that point you have Ronaldo dropping back, you have Dybala so far back that there's nowhere to go with this ball, and everybody was flat-footed. Everybody was standing around. We get the ball. It didn't matter who got it. You know, Rabiot gets the ball. Danilo's standing there. Bonucci's not even dropping back, creating some space. The forwards are like so far back. All these passes are short. And then sometimes you get in scenarios where, yeah, safety first and you pump it up, but you have nobody contesting the ball because everybody's come so far back just to win it. And it was just frustrating, very, very frustrating to see. But towards later on in the half, you know, we did start to see a couple opportunities where maybe we could cause some problems going over the top. Dybala had an opportunity from a ball that was played over the top. He had another through ball, I think, around the 42nd minute that went to him, and again, it was like the only sequence I could think of in the first half where we actually moved the ball quickly and guys were attacking space. The ball found him. He made a great cross to Ronaldo for what looked like a sitter. Ronaldo missed the header. It was just offside anyways because Dybala had to take an extra touch. But yeah, I mean, all in all, that half ends up 1-0, and it's pretty damn ugly. Other than that, like, you're just hoping, hey, Juve's got to figure this out at halftime. I wanted to see some changes. We just looked really, really bad. The good things that we had going in some of these matches leading up to this were completely gone. Just that movement off the ball with this team has been an issue for so long, you know. And in this match, when you start getting signs like that you can expose them, because this team presses hard. So a team that presses hard like that, and you see it with a couple of glimpses in the first half that, hey, there's opportunities over the top here. Let's start getting those runs going, attacking that space. To just not do it or go to it is so frustrating watching that on TV, because you're just like, it's right there in front of you guys. Like, this is the way you're going to attack them. Like, you have to. But again, one of the problems was it took so much for us to win the ball. They were flooding us in the midfield, which naturally they play a 3-4-3, which makes it very, very hard for our three-man midfield. They need to be so tight and in unison, and it was anything but that. I saw all our guys all over the place positionally. It again became a positional shit show, which we did see in the Coppa Italia matches, and it took me back to that. It was just like, holy shit, everything we gained coming into this, we've completely lost again, and now we were just a positional mess. So at half, I did want at least a change, and it almost didn't even matter who, just to like send a fucking sign. Like, honestly, what I was saying in my mind, I was just like, I could see putting who, I'm not gonna like, I know your thoughts on Bernadeschi and whatnot. I don't think when we look at this and we want to attack certain players, it's really fair, because the whole team was so bad. Like Dybala, I love Dybala. He was poor. He was so poor, but not even to his fault. Ronaldo, not even to his fault. We could not get these guys any kind of proper service. And when guys aren't doing the right things positionally, what do we get? We get exactly what we had. A guy would get the ball close to the area, and there would be literally like 4 or 5. Like, they just get pounced on, and there's no options. The spacing is so bad. The sequences are all wrong. Like, it's just the natural progression of the ball goes out the window. But credit to Atalanta, because they did that to us. We just need to be better and have answers. But at halftime, I was saying, let's get Bernardeschi back as a Mezzala, move Rabiot to the left, and bring out Douglas Costa. And I was just like, just get that spark, get something that they have to keep an eye on at all times. Hopefully create some more space. But that was kind of my thoughts at half. Eric, what's your thoughts at halftime of this one?
I don't know if I would have made personnel changes, but one thing I noticed throughout the match, because I think yesterday Sarri tried to employ the 4-4-2, and then you just saw people, like you said, that were completely out of position. Matter of fact, the commentators, because I have ESPN Plus, they even made a comment about that later on during the matches, where it just seems like they're kind of shooting from the hip. And a lot of the times in the match, Rabiot's playing the right midfield position, and he was shoulder to shoulder with Matuidi. And what I saw was that we were so aggressive, and they would overload one side, and then we'd follow the ball over to one side, and then we would just leave their, Papu would come over, and he would just orchestrate things on the entire open end of the field. So in my mind, I thought, maybe it's not a personnel thing. We just need to get our spacing right. We need to get our positions right. Like, there's absolutely zero reason that Rodrigo, Matuidi, and Rabiot need to be occupying the same exact space in the midfield. But I also thought that when we were on the ball, that our back line and our midfield were so detached and so compacted from our attacking three, that even if they did get service, they had zero support. And you're right, and my personal opinion is, like, I thought our front three, you can't attack them in terms of performance if their performance is based on the other parts of the squad working together. So, and this goes beyond yesterday's match. I don't like a lot of what Juan does, because what Juan does on the right side is you'll see him start to press forward, start to gain momentum and progress the ball. And for no reason at all, he'll stop. No reason at all. He stops the flow of the ball. So you have Bernadeschi, who's making his forward runs and taking his defender with him, thinking Juan's going to follow. You have Rodrigo, usually on the right, but you had Rabiot completely taken out of the picture, because he's doing his taxes over there with Matuidi on the left, and then you have Juan coming up behind him, and as soon as he has space, he stops. And one thing we have to get him to do is he just has to be able to press the ball himself forward. Like, that way, if they start to see that, they're going to have to pull some of their players out of position, because they know one-on-one, Juan's going to be able to beat this guy. So I didn't think, from a personnel standpoint, that we were in a bad position. I thought that they should have rearranged some of the spacing and the positions and say, hey, you can't go from this side of the field all the way to this side of the field. You need to stay here. The person who's designed to be on this side of the field needs to hold that position and take care of it. Okay, And I can live with that. I can live with if Matuidi's on the left side and he's getting beat one-on-one, but I'm not sacrificing two or three other players too. That's cool. Then we know what the problem is. So the spark, I thought, would have been if we came out and started pressing. So I'm thinking like I don't need a spark from personnel changes. I need a spark because I need people to just be active and stop.
Yeah.
So I don't know what Douglas Costa would have done, because putting Douglas Costa on there wouldn't have changed what was happening behind him. So I don't know if that would have made any changes or progress in the match.
No, but the big thing is you get the technical ability of Bernardeschi in the middle. So you've got a team that's flooding the midfield, Atalanta. They're making it life miserable for you. And Matuidi, it's not happening. It is not happening. Danilo's on a shocker over there. You put your technical guy up there. Costa's merely to replace him so you have another forward up top. But he is going to create havoc because, again, it's almost like a safety net, which it has been for Juve, because he's got an incredible ability to beat guys 1v1. So it just gives you a safety net in the sense of as you try to make changes to figure things out. A three-man midfield, while they're trying to be zonal, completely fell apart. And then they started all man marking, which became an incredible issue, which is why you had guys all over the place. This would have been the match where you scrap the width up top, and maybe this would have been the one to say, hey, you know what? Maybe that 4-3-1-2 he always wants to try could have been the opportunity to maybe do it if he had the smarts to tell this team and direct them to start going for those aerial balls, and then have that cam in behind there as a cleanup, and have those guys closer together in the central, because it was way too spaced out. Dybala was getting the ball. Bernardeschi was trying to hold the width out there, which made zero sense, because I'm like, at that point, what is really going to happen there? The angle of passing's gone. You've got guys in between you. Playing wide like that doesn't necessarily scare a team that plays 3-4-3 that becomes 5 across the back defensively in a shell. So those guys needed to be way closer together up top. Ronaldo, Dybala, and Berna were just not together. It wasn't a unit.
I thought playing wide keeps them from running everything through the middle, because they run a 3-4-3. I think it can transition to a 3-4-1-2. So everything runs from Papu, but the problem was he wasn't running things centrally. I mean, he'd come back, get things centrally, but then he was pulling people and picking them apart, because then he'd go wide and then everything was running through the middle. So I thought us maintaining width on the attack was a good idea, because that it keeps them from being able to come to the middle. The only problem was we had nobody making penetrating runs through the middle, which is what we needed. So you pulled the ball down, and then everybody's wide, and then you have the ball in the middle. So not only did we not go narrow and make things a little bit easier in terms of our passing, but Sarri did even more of an opposite and said, okay, we're going to go even wider, and I'm going to run the 4-4-2, and then you had 3 guys on one side, 1 guy on another side. It was like, let's move past this, because I don't want to get on it.
It almost didn't even play out that way. Like 4-4-2, 4-3-3, whatever. We took our fullbacks out of the game ourselves. Yeah. We did that to ourselves by staying so wide with our 3 forwards rather than bring them in when they needed to be. It was shocking, man. Like, our fullbacks couldn't make penetrating runs because he would just run in. Like, Quadrado would have ran right into Bernardeschi that whole time. Like, it made no sense. I'm like, Quadrado's here, has the ball, and Bernardeschi's on the other side of that guy. And I'm just like, what is Quad really going to do? And you saw it in Quadrado's reactions all the time. He's like, where am I going to go? What am I going to do? Dybala's like at the last line of defense, which is fine. But then those midfielders, it was brutal. Like, the whole thing was a mess, man. It was an absolute mess. But yeah, let's get to the second half. I mean, we don't get any changes. There's no changes, so you're just hoping the only thing that could change is attitude. But 53rd minute, Dybala gets the ball on the left side, attempts a cross. It hits the defender's hand, gets called immediately. After reviewing it, by rule, obviously, it's going to get called. They're calling everything, but I honestly thought the guy was hard done by. That was my own personal thoughts, bias aside, of course, but we get the call. Ronaldo steps up, makes it 1-1. Said at this point, the next 10 minutes is crucial on how you follow this up for both teams. But we didn't really follow it up as strong as I would have liked. And we kind of, maybe had a bit more of the play for a few minutes, but then Atalanta just grew and grew and grew. In the 57th minute, Sandro comes on for Danilo, and then Costa comes in for Bernardeschi. These subs, again, I'm thinking like I would get Matuidi out of there. Right. Personally. Right. I'm still thinking get Matuidi out of there. Move Rabiot to the left. Get Berna and that Metzala. Or even at this point, bring Ramsey on. Like, to continue to keep Matuidi in there, in my mind, was just baffling because, again, that you need that technical ability in this match. Their midfield was, again, when you get, at one point in this match, Atalanta had 78% possession at one point of this match in the first half. Like, that's insane, and it was all in the middle. It took so much. Again, all our guys dropping back took so much for us to win the ball. Have the guys with the technical ability so you don't have what was happening, which was us quickly being dispossessed or these guys just bombing it aimlessly. But we continue on. Like, these subs, what were your thoughts on these subs? The Sandro one I was fine for. Danilo was having a shocker. So
once again, I don't think the front three. I wouldn't have put Costa on so quick. I wouldn't. I would have made some changes in the midfield because we don't know if the lack of creativity in the front three is because the front three were just playing poorly, or if just the link-up play between the midfield and the front three is what needed to change. So I'm with you on that. I might have even put Miralem Pjanic on prior to me knowing that apparently he had a muscle injury. I would have put him in the middle and then made the switch, so put Bentancur on the right and then Rabiot on the left. I would have went back to kind of what is the most comfortable and what has been working at that point in time. So I would have left Costa on the bench for right now. And then I would have just made the one change, Sandro. I'd have made two. So I would have brought Pjanic on before I knew that he had a muscle injury, and I would put Sandro on. And I thought that would have kind of created the balance that we needed. So Sandro would have been a lot better on the ball. He would have been pushing the ball forward, I guess. And then we would finally have had Rodrigo on the right side, staying there. He wouldn't have been abandoning that area, and then Rabiot would have been on the left. So that would have been my first change, because at that point in time, when you go attack and fullback, I feel like those were changes that doesn't help the issue at hand. So what's going to happen now? Costa's going to come down, and he's going to want the ball at his feet. So now we're going to have Costa coming all the way back towards Juan and kind of free roaming, because he doesn't stick to that position true to its position to kind of help create. So there was a spark, absolutely, just not what I would have done immediately.
Yeah. I don't know. It's
kind of hard to dissect this, because
hindsight's
so many
always
wrong
20.
things with what was going on. It's kind of like, where do you start?
Well, hindsight's always 20/22, but I mean, I don't know. Costa, he's the guy. He's the guy we look forward to a spark. Again, it's not necessarily right, because it is a whole lot of individuality, right? Rather than that team thing, but it's been a safety net. The 69th minute, Higuain comes in for Dybala. Honestly, like, everybody knows I love Dybala, how I feel about Dybala. He was having a pretty rough go, and not just, again, for himself, everything we were saying, just the team, the service, the whole style of play. So whatever, you make a change, it is what it is. 79th minute, Rabiot loses the ball in the middle with a guy all over his back there. We regain it through Bentancur in our area. And then he attempts to run this thing out through a couple guys. It looks like he's trying to poke a pass to Matuidi, who's not even looking at him. Easily cut out. They come back. Ball finds Muriel. Slips it over to the side. Milosevic, who hammers this thing home. 2-1 down. Now, unbelievably frustrating goal. But, you know, everybody's on Rabiot for losing that ball there. I mean, I didn't see the play close enough. Guy's on his back. One of the things that frustrates me all the time with this team is, like, why'd that ball even go to Rabiot? Because we had a guy actually on the wing, you know, but I saw this throughout this match. I've seen it throughout many of our matches. Why do we have to continue to pick every little pass along the way? There is zero risk, even at this level where it should be a minimum, such a small risk. We couldn't take the attempt to just pop this ball over to our winger there. We had to make sure we played this 5-foot fucking pass to Rabiot, who's got a guy all over his back. And I'm thinking, just pop it over that forward to that winger who's fucking sitting there. No, we don't. We play it to Rabiot, 5 foot. He gets it stripped, comes back. Bentancur gets it. And then Bentancur, he gets the ball. And this is not going to be an attack on Bentancur. Even though I think what he did was wrong, he had no options. He wins the ball in our area. Right immediately, our fullback, maybe if we had a real fucking fullback, should have been blasting up the side to give him that option. He didn't. Everybody stood back there. So he had nowhere to go. You know, they've stayed there. They haven't moved forward with him. He runs it into trouble. Matuidi, I don't even know what the fuck he's looking at. He's not paying attention. Wouldn't have mattered. It was a terrible pass. It was a terrible play. The whole thing was an absolute mess. 2-1 Atalanta, and honestly, as pissed as I am, they deserve it. Flat out. This goal, so much frustration. Those were my frustrations and all the points there. Anything I missed that you want to clue in, like, it's infuriating, man. It's infuriating to see these kinds of mistakes. And then we get 82nd minute. Ramsey comes in for Matuidi, and I'm like, holy fuck. It's about time. You know, like, you wait till you're 2-1 down, and now you want some technical ability in the middle of the park.
And I also saw Rugani trying to come in with him. So in my mind, I'm like, what is he about to do? And then, so he brings Ramsey on, and he kind of had the reaction of, oh, I'm not going in. And I'm like, no, you're not going in. Go put your vest on. Go sit down, because we need to win this game. You put him on, it's 4-1.
Oh, yeah, it's like Atalanta's getting a couple goals for sure. It's funny, too, like, people post this picture on this 2-1 goal, and, you know, I thought, like, so many things on this goal, too. First of all, it was an absolute cannon. Yeah. The dude just fucking drilled it. But Sandro, people were like, why didn't Sandro get in there, like, in his face? Like, he had so much space. And I'm like, yeah, nobody really attacked the ball. Bonucci did his classic turn. I'm going to turn around and defend with my ass. But Szczesny, I thought the dive was pretty weak too for some short side. Like, I'm like, are you not going to, like, lay yourself out and throw both hands out there? Like, I don't know, the whole thing. That goal summed up how lethargic this performance was from Juve. It was all in that goal. That's the easiest way I could summarize this game is watch that goal. 88th minute, Ronaldo puts a free kick that deflects just wide on the left side. Ensuing corner, Higuain tries to flip the ball past Muriel. He hits his hand, called immediately, and I'm just thinking, my God, we are gonna be this fucking team that absolutely steals this point. And at this point, I don't even care, man. I'm like, tie it up and let's get the fuck out of here and forget about this thing. Ronaldo
definitely not a penalty. I felt so bad because, like, as a competitor, that's not how I want to win the game. I want to straight up beat you, and like to get a BS call like that is like, at least the ref was consistent, I guess, but.
By rule,
yeah, and I saw that.
This
and I was
new
like,
thing, they're both PKs, but even the first one, I mean, that guy's jumping. It hits him here, and it's tight to his body. If it hit him up in the upper part, when it's like kind of he's like this, I get it, but it's like so tight to his body, hits him around the elbow, and I'm like, there's not a whole bunch else this guy can do. This one with Muriel, zero he can do, like absolutely nothing. But again, by rule, and they're calling all of them. That's what they're doing to get rid of this, gray area, whatever. But yeah, we get it. It's 2-2, and I'm thinking, get the fuck out, guys. Like, we are so lucky to get anything out of this game because we deserved absolutely nothing. Yeah, and that was pretty much my summary on this game is just, again, we are Jekyll and Hyde. And you don't know what the hell you're going to get from Juve from one game to the next. And this one, we were by far the worst team on the pitch and didn't deserve a single thing out of it. We are so lucky because Atalanta's red hot. Lazio, again, loses to Sassuolo, but now it's like it's Atalanta that could make one hell of a push now and be that scary team because Lazio's losing momentum quick. But I have nothing to put into this game, man, other than it was such a terrible performance. I felt at times Rabiot, despite what I see from ratings and stuff, which we're going to get into, I thought Rabiot at times looked like our only midfielder. I saw a couple flashes here and there from Bentancur, but overall I thought all he was doing was running around aimlessly. And not because of his own fault, it's just positionally we were a mess. But nobody really stood out, man. De Ligt, Rabiot, the forwards, I'm not even going to get on the forwards because there was no support. Absolutely no support. So your quick take before we get into performances and player ratings that we want to discuss.
Take on just the performance overall.
Just the overall, the full 90. Like just anything you want to add.
I'm a results-driven person, and I'm a big believer in that if the worst thing that happens, even though I didn't appreciate how it happened, it's not like we earned a point. We stole a point. If the worst thing that happens is you walk away with a point, you're okay. So in my mind, I'm thinking long term. I'm thinking scudetto. I'm thinking like, okay, we still can put a hand on it. My concern is the performance of the squad. So 1 point better than zero, obviously. It puts us back in the draw column. We walk away with something, but definitely not something you want to hang your hat on.
Yeah, absolutely. It's crazy. We get into this race, this allowed us to gain a point on Lazio. 68 points for Lazio, 76 for Juve, 6 games remaining. So 8-point lead's great. But Atalanta is 9 points behind. If they would have beaten us here, they would have been 6 points away from us. With 6 games remaining, that's intense. This was a huge point for us in this race. And to hold that gap, not only on Lazio, but Atalanta, who's coming on very, very strong. Merda's at 65 with 1 game in hand. But yeah, this race is anything but done. And we need to finish it off, man. We need to really get strong here. We've got Sassuolo coming up, which is not going to be an easy match.
No, aren't they? They've lost one match, and it was against Atalanta since the restart, and they've won every game since. Matter of what, they had 15 goals in 4 matches, or something like that.
Yeah, they're playing. They're playing great. They caused Lazio all sorts of issues yesterday. Deserved that scoreline probably flattered Lazio big time in that match. But that's not going to be easy. And then, of course, we have Lazio. This was a critical stretch for us. Those points that we let slip out of our hands against Milan, absolutely terrible. But we'll see what ends up happening here. But the thing is that's still unsettling for a lot of Juventini, and I understand, is the fact that we are so Jekyll and Hyde. It's all over the map. But these player ratings too, everybody wants to talk about performances. Everybody sees the game differently. I spoke to Bentancur and how I just felt he was on off performance. I see some posts coming out with his match by the numbers, and it's trying to portray him having this incredible match, and I just didn't feel that whatsoever. These stats are always misleading. I never go by these stats. Then you see player ratings. You see these ratings. One rating had Dybala as the best at 7. It had Rabiot at the worst. It had Matuidi at 4.5 and Rabiot at 5, and I'm thinking, my God, it had Bentancur higher than Rabiot, and I didn't feel that way. But again, I don't even care about all these ratings and whatnot. I just honestly, if I was looking at this game, I'd have them all at 5s and maybe Rabiot and De Ligt at and Ronaldo because of his 2 clutch PK goals. I'd have those guys at 6s and everybody else at 5. Honestly, that's how I felt. Sorry would have been at a 3.5 for me, but that's my thing. Do you want to talk to your thoughts on performances with some of our guys and just player ratings in general?
Well, I guess I'll start from top to bottom. So I wouldn't have given Ronaldo a higher rating than Dybala because of his PK ability. That to me is a different facet of the game. Congratulations, you can score from a very close position against a keeper that's probably not going to stop any kick from you. But and to me, that's a very individualistic stat. So you are the highest rating player on this team for today's performance, and yet you earned 0 of those penalties. Granted, you had to bury them. I thought Dybala, in terms of what he was trying to do with the squad, create, come back, do some dirty work, I thought Dybala was the most active. Definitely deserved a higher rating. I thought De Ligt, given the fact that he got the hell beat out of him and still managed to finish the match, he deserved a high rating. But in terms of just ratings in general, personal feelings is that a lot of supporters will judge a player's performance off those ratings, and the ratings are subjective. You'll see Miralem Pjanic get a 6 or 6.5 because of his pass accuracies or his dribbles and stuff like that, and most of them are 5-yard passes to the guys behind him. So they're skewed. They don't tell the story. I think player ratings are a very individualistic aspect of the sport that I think encourages individualistic performances, and I don't agree with them. I think that if you have a player and you have a team that plays together and one of those players seems to outperform the rest, okay, rate that player. But when you start trying to cherry pick and say, well, this person played bad, even though I might not necessarily know why they played bad, they just performed bad without taking into consideration external variables that can affect player performances like your teammates, and you have no support, why am I going to give somebody a poor rating because he doesn't have support from his teammates? I don't agree with player ratings. Because I think, not to mention, it's a psychological aspect. So players know if they played poorly or if they didn't. And the next thing you know is you have these guys who have no reason to judge them. talking about well they got a poor performance and this is why they have a poor performance, and it's like I don't like it, and it's something that they've always done. If you feel that you can judge a player by that, go for it. I don't, because I'm looking at this from a team perspective. So I'm gonna give the entire team a rating. That's my personal opinion.
Yeah, I gotta say I disagree with the Dybala thing though on this one, and I love Dybala, but he drifted and dropped, and I know he had to do it to get into the game, but at the same point, it was hurting us. It was hurting us big time because it creates such gaps. Ronaldo, he buried those PKs. They were clutch PKs. We needed both of those at those moments big time. But Ronaldo also did the same thing as Dybala, which was create opportunities on their own. Like Ronaldo had that one, he trapped that over the top ball, made a great play to get to it on his bad foot and shot it. It was a great save by Golini there. Dybala did the same thing in the first half, except his went wide. I think it might have deflected off the defender. But that's the kind of game it was. These guys were getting an opportunity every 20 minutes to make something happen.
Right.
It was way too hard. So like the only reason he gets them is because it was 88th minute or something. This is like crucial to the scudetto race, and all the pressure's on kickers in a PK, and he's got to step up and bury that. This guy's like he's got it. So it's a pretty clutch moment because, again, that swing is drastic, man. It goes from like 8-point lead to 6 points, and it's Atalanta now behind you. And they would have been on
that. It's a clutch aspect of the match in terms of the overall picture. That I'm not disagreeing with that, and I think you have to be you got to be cold-blooded to just step up and bury these without a second. And I agree with that. What I don't agree with is that I can't rate a player's entire performance from a team-based perspective because he did that. Okay, that was a very individualistic thing that you did, but it was not a play that was, it wasn't a ball in play. You didn't do anything miraculous in play. So I'm going to judge you based on what was your outside. If you take those away, what was your team rating? How did you affect your team? How did you make your team better? And he didn't make the team better. He just he buried the PK. So I would just categorize them in its own category. Like, great, clutch PK taker, awesome, we got a point. But I'm looking at
it just comes down to
what all did you
at the end of the day. Yeah, if you that's just, to me though, that's just either doing player ratings or not doing player ratings, really.
Yeah.
Because goals are, whether a goal comes from a PK or open play, you got to still put it in. And if you were to step up and miss it, you can bet your ass it's going to affect your player rating because you just missed a PK. So if you're going to dock a guy for, which they do all the time, and I would honestly dock a guy if he stepped up in that situation, miss it. It's like, fuck, dude, we needed that. That was brutal. That was crucial. And it depends on just how. Like, look at those PKs against Napoli there. Holy fuck. Like, you bet your ass I'd be docking Danilo for that PK on a player ratings card. So I think it's more arguing whether you even do them or not, right?
Well, let me
because even in open play, to put Dybala so far like ahead of Ronaldo in this one kind of like struck me by surprise because I don't know. He was trying, but so was Ronaldo. Ronaldo was trying more. I don't think just because of the fact that Dybala was the one chosen to come back, that's just honestly a product of the circumstances, because you would much rather want Dybala being the guy back rather than Ronaldo being back with our midfielders, because that's the killer that you want up at the top. Dybala is a killer in his own right, but not to the level and degree of Ronaldo. So I think that's just if you were going to score them separately and give Dybala more because he was that guy coming back, well, that's Now all of a sudden you're punishing one guy for being a victim of the circumstances, really, because you would want Dybala being that guy coming back to link up and not Ronaldo. Like, I get frustrated all the time when I see Ronaldo coming back. I was losing my shit in this game because all our forwards had to come so far back. And I'm like, how are we going to generate scoring chances if these guys are right where our midfield is? The Coppa Italia matches, I was losing my mind because you literally had in a row our midfielders and Ronaldo. Like, there was points of the match in Coppa Italia matches, Ronaldo was behind Matuidi. And Matuidi was like on the last line defense. And I'm like, if that's not ass backwards and Sarri's not losing his shit right now, I don't know what is. You know what I mean? So it's just like, it's all relative. I totally get what you're saying.
If Ronaldo lines up, and the odds of him missing two are astronomical, right? So all I'm saying is if he lines it up and he misses both of those PKs, does he get the same rating as Matuidi, being that they offered about the same amount? Well, if you're not willing to say yes, then you can't say that you should. Then he's a victim of what Paulo was doing because Paulo was coming back. Like, that's my thing. If you're not willing to rate him as poor as Matuidi or Bentancur because he missed two PKs, then I can't give him credit and give him man of the match because he made those two PKs. Like, it's, you got to look at both sides.
So, well, Ronaldo offered a hell of a fucking lot more than a lot of guys out there. Again, like Ronaldo, De Ligt, and Ronaldo, De Ligt, and Rabiot were the only guys, again, for me that like stood out. Dybala came back, tried to do things. He generated like a couple chances, but that was really it, man. He was invisible again, not because of himself,
right? Because
of the circumstances, but he was like, I was just like, they gave him a 7, and I'm like, fuck, I didn't see it. I didn't see it. And then again, this is how skewed all these things are, is because you see another one where he's not even in the picture of top performers. So it's all just perspective and whatnot. Now, the thing is with this one is it's Atalanta, red hot, 9 wins in a row. They're coming in, and you still have a lot of Juventini that are saying, this is good. This is a good result, and you got to take whatnot. This is kind of the same as one of those wins we just recently had. I think it was the Derby della Mola, where I was talking about, you can get a great result off a mediocre performance. If you look at the first time we played Atalanta, we got a 3-1 victory, and that was a very flattering scoreline for Juve. This is a great result for us. It's a good result against a very, very tough club, but it's the fact that it's so undeserving that drives many Juventini crazy. So it's these types of matches, these types of results, these types of discussions after the fact that have, Juve Twitter just in shambles because everybody's fucking going at it. Because of what they personally believe. And then you have, you're ungrateful, you're spoiled. Like, this is, these are kind of some of the things that are being labeled to Juventini that are frustrated in these performances. And I think it's, again, I was happy with the result, but I'm extremely pissed off that we do not deserve it. That's as simple as I can put it. If I get labeled as spoiled or ungrateful or whatever, it is what it is. We didn't deserve a single thing out of the match. I looked at my pre-match tweet just to read, and I said, I know we had the big slip up, that complete collapse against Milan, but I said I have faith in Juve matching up to the level of the opponent they're playing. And I think we'll put in a good performance, but this victory will be very, very tough to get. So I see a 2-2 draw. So I called a 2-2 draw, but I was completely wrong on matching the level of the opponent and all that. And that's the part that frustrated me the most, is that we didn't deserve it. So, what do you feel about when fans are saying, yeah, you're ungrateful or you're spoiled and whatnot, and like, is it just me, or like I just am bothered even by the draw? Like, I like the result, but I'm pissed. I'm so pissed off that we don't deserve it, and that's the only way I could put it. You know?
Yeah, yeah. No, I share that. Like I'm a competitor through and through, and I've already made mention that um, if we walk away with a point, great. But I am completely um, at a loss for how poor we played. There's no response to that. And see, I don't think that me as a Juventus supporter, I'm not spoiled, but there is a level and a standard that you play at and that you represent. So I'm not spoiled because I expect us to win. I'm spoiled because the moment you put that jersey on and you wear it, you play at level X. Okay, you play here. This is why we won as many as we had in a row, is because that the level of expectation, the trend, everything is higher here. So I'm not spoiled because, oh my God, we didn't win and we didn't deserve. No, I'm spoiled because I'm like, we're gonna beat you because we train harder, we play harder. The level of expectation is higher. That's why I'm spoiled. And then when you see drop-offs like yesterday, that's why the real supporters are. That's why we get infuriated. We're pissed because it's like that's not a squad that we know that we can be or that we should be.
Yeah. Yeah, you're absolutely right. You know, there's got to be that standard there, and yeah, it's just so frustrating because, again, I think what adds to it is you see matches, you see some good things happening, and you're like, why? Like, we never grow off it, right? It's like it just happens and then it fades. It's gone, and we're back to like square one. Yesterday felt like day one of football for this club. You know, it was just like literally the first time they got together and kicked the ball around. Incredibly frustrating. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. Like, I'm reading through some of these comments on the post-match tweet, and it's just some of them are just saying that we need to give credit to Atalanta, and some Juventini aren't giving them enough. I give them full credit. I'm not discrediting that team whatsoever. All I'm doing is looking at our club's performance and just seeing what an absolute mess it is, like positionally, tactically, and just no growth there. Like, I'm not saying Atalanta, I actually, we have all said, both of us even said, they deserve the win, 100%. And that's the part that's frustrating. So, if everybody's in agreement that Atalanta deserved all 3 points, how can we in turn get upset at Juventini for criticizing the club in some way and looking for more from our performance if we're all in agreement that Atalanta deserved the full points? It does, that just turns into us being happy for the point. Yeah, we are extremely happy because we know we didn't get it. So the whole thing doesn't really make a whole lot of sense to me. But nobody can really make sense of anything surrounding Juve lately. And one of the big question marks now since Milan has been the defense. And we know Chiellini's got to be close. Demiral's going to probably be getting some minutes in the next week and a half.
Not to interrupt you, but Rav actually just had made a tweet prior to us doing this cast that Demiral is he did some group training today. So one thing that I do need to, or I think that we need to take into consideration, because guys like Bentancur has played every single minute since the restart, and I think it's the training. I think the lack of rotation, which I've been in support of, but I'm hypocritical because I'm like, don't change anything, but at the same time I'm like, clearly these guys need a rest. I think they're exhausted. Because some of these guys go full 90 and then literally the next day, which makes absolutely no sense. Like, for me as a coach, I would be like, the following day is film day. Let's go over this. Your body needs to rest. Let's look at some tape and get some mental reps in. I think they're exhausted. So personally speaking, I know that we probably weren't going to bring this up, but I would do as much of a change as possible for the Sassuolo match because they need some fresh legs.
Yeah, the thing is, I want to get into the defense. The defense at center back, because, this was a big game to see how Bonucci can bounce back. And I put a lot on it as the partnership, too, with Rugani. Because you have two defenders playing center back that both like to back off. And it just doesn't fucking work. He needs... Bonucci, in order for him to succeed, needs that guy that's going to go out and be the aggressor and be that pressing force. But even yesterday, he was just piss poor. And it maybe didn't show up a lot to a lot of people, but I mean, when you're watching Zapata get free in headers scenarios, and you're watching Bonucci in certain circumstances where he's not even marking anyone and he's not stepping to the area that he needs to prevent opportunities, I'm starting to get concerned. So the question is, if Chiellini is healthy, even once Demiral is or whatnot, do we look at swapping our center back pairing for some more stability back there? I know we have this is besides the fact that we have other areas that we need to strengthen as well, but just speaking from terms of the center back position, do we keep with De Ligt and Bonucci, who do have a good chemistry, but Bonucci's confidence, and again, you brought it up too with the other guys, but he's racked up an absurd amount of minutes this season. Bonucci, it's been crazy because of the injuries and Chiellini being gone and whatnot. So do we look to change that with these guys coming in healthy, or do we keep it the same?
So I pulled up our schedule. So this is what I'm doing if I'm a flexible coach, which we know the mule that smokes cigarettes is not. So if playing against Sassuolo, I think towards the end of the match, you get some playing time for either Chiellini or Demiral. So you start the Bonucci-De Ligt pairing. For Lazio, you start the Bonucci-De Ligt pairing, and then you bring somebody off the bench, get some playing time. Preferably the other person who didn't get playing time against Sassuolo. And then we play Udinese. I would make the change against Udinese with maybe Demiral and Chiellini getting some minutes, because you can still with 5 subs you can make a sub of De Ligt and Bonucci. Now whether that's too much at once, I don't know, but you have Udinese.
I'm just going to interrupt because we have Lazio after that one.
We have Sassuolo and then we have Lazio at home.
Yes, Sassuolo, Lazio, and then Udinese, right?
Yeah. Okay. So I'm thinking you bring in one of Chiellini or Demiral in Sassuolo, and then towards the end of the match against Lazio, you bring in the other one who didn't get minutes, and then against Udinese, maybe you start that pairing because Bonucci and De Ligt need rest, and then you have Udinese, Sampdoria, and Cagliari, so you can have Chiellini and Demiral finally getting to the point where they can get minutes towards those matches, and then obviously after that you're talking about the UCL. So I think you start getting somebody off, and to me personally, De Ligt needs to be the one to go. He's beat up, his shoulder's bothering him. I would, towards the end of some matches, he would be the guy that maybe I substitute for either Chiellini or Demiral, because Demiral is going to play similar to De Ligt. Chiellini's going to play similar to De Ligt. These are going to be the guys that close down the gaps. These are going to be the guys that press, that allow Bonucci to kind of sit back or play the ball and take his time. So that, to me, that's a like for a like for a like. And then that way you don't lose some of the chemistry and the style of play between your center back pairings.
Yeah. That's, I mean, it's good theory. The only thing is the risk of re-injury. Also, is it going to be enough chemistry? The scudetto race, what happens result-wise, all that, and what we're going to be able to make, just happen as we lead up to those Champions League matches, right? Obviously, we had the draw that come out. We may as well get into this now. You had the draw. You've got 26 titles on one side of the bracket, and you've got 0 on the opposite, which is fine. It is what it is. Ultimately, we just have to overturn this tie with Lyon. Down 1-0. We have to do that first and foremost. And watching performances like this scares the hell out of me, because it's just like, my God, I don't care who you line up against. If you play in this manner, it's just not going to end up very, very good. So we know the bracket on Champions League is it's insane. But I don't know. I think a lot's going to be determined in these next 2 matches, the Sassuolo and Lazio one. I think after the Lazio match, we will probably know what ends up happening. The only way we don't is Atalanta is kind of creating this wild card scenario for themselves. Essentially this next one with Sassuolo, we cannot drop points. Absolutely cannot drop points. You can almost even say that we have to win with the way Atalanta's playing. And Atalanta's got Brescia next. So I'd be absolutely shocked if they don't get 3 points there. Okay?
Yeah.
So that puts them at, if they end up getting that, 70 points. And Juve will be at 76 going up against Sassuolo. Okay? That's why I say, like, it now becomes not even Lazio, but Atalanta, who we are trying to keep at bay, really, for these next 6 matches. By time we go to play Lazio, Atalanta plays Hellas Verona. Okay? And
they changed their logo, and ever since they changed their logo, they seem like a different squad. So
you're gonna have to change a hell of a lot more, I think, on that club to try and take down Atalanta. But that's okay. Hellas Verona will be at home. Hopefully, like, here's fingers crossed, but still, let's be realistic. I'd be surprised there. Atalanta doesn't get that. And then they have Bologna. Atalanta then plays Bologna when we are going against Udinese. And then when Juve's got Samp, Atalanta will face AC Milan. So that one a bit more tougher test, and it'll be at San Siro there. And then we'll have Cagliari, and Atalanta will have Parma. So it's going to be interesting. That's why I say these next couple will be crucial for us and determining how we're going to use that personnel, because Atalanta's got 2 relatively easy games, while we have the Sassuolo Lazio back-to-backs that we have to deal with. So it'll be a very, very interesting flex on points there. And I think if you get into that scenario, you brought up a mule, a stubborn little mule there. I see these guys not integrating into the lineup through if we get into a scenario like that. I don't know if he necessarily does that, or if he just goes with what he feels safe and is our best. Even though these guys are getting back in, trying to get minutes, I think he's going to be feeling the heat, feeling the pressure, and sweating, if it's possible, more than he was yesterday, which was absolutely disgusting to watch.
Yeah, someone put that in a towel or something, please. Or stop wearing long sleeve cotton shirts on the shore.
It was insane, but yeah, like, that's what I think's gonna honestly determine more so than anything what happens with the personnel. And I kind of agree with you. We need to integrate these guys and get them going, because the guys need some rest. But man, it could be does that change a discussion if all of a sudden Atalanta's breathing down our necks? Say we don't get full points against Sassuolo and maybe drop against Lazio, who's had our number this season, or even if you get 2 draws there, Atalanta gets a couple, all of a sudden this is a completely different scenario, right? Does it change in your mind, and do we stick with Bonucci, De Ligt, and try and ride it out?
I mean, his shoulder's what's bothering me, but I'll say this is now that Sarri's our coach, I'm starting to wonder that maybe the reason he never walked home with anything from a domestic standpoint is because his team was just exhausted towards the last stretch, and they had nothing left to give. I mean, that's why that I always felt like Napoli started strong, and then towards the end they dropped off, and it's because they just didn't have the energy. So me believing that, I feel that I would give credit to Sarri for trying to make changes when he needs to make the changes. Look, in order for you to get out of that rhythm of not having anything, if you change and if you start Gonzalo Higuain, if you start Douglas Costa, if you start Milan Pjanic, if you start Ramsey and Matuidi, we don't have an option at our right back and left back, obviously, and you start making changes in the center back strictly to get your normal players rest because you're still playing the long game. I can respect that. If we don't win, I can respect that we didn't win because you did what you had to do and it just didn't work out that way, as opposed to us just not winning because you're being stubborn. So out of respect for Sarri, which I have very little for, if he did make that change, look, I can live with it. It was a change that you try to do for the better. So yeah, I mean, not that it's ever going to happen, but I think you have to consider it.
Yeah, but even then, it's tough to say that we have to. That we have to. I find the whole thing strange that we've gotten to a point where our true captain, Chiellini, is necessarily on the outside looking in, and that's just because of the partnership that De Ligt and Bonucci have formed. But Bonucci, I am starting to get questions now. I'm 2 episodes away from praising the guy for how he's handled the whole thing, which I still praise him for, with Chiellini going out and whatnot. I think he's done a great job, but I do find it strange that Chiellini, our true captain, and how much of that leadership, is missing in this club, because Chiellini's really the only guy that I could see having that. We know Bonucci's not that guy when it comes to the leadership traits, and what he isn't. He gets it wrong all the time during match, and he gets it wrong with his words post match. He's just, that leadership thing is lost on him, right? Is that gonna be a critical trait to get Chiellini in there? Because we have a lot of fans that are saying we need Chiellini in there strictly for his leadership, because we're lost out there and they're looking to guys and there's nobody there. How do you feel about that?
I'm on the fence with it, because when I look at that, I look at players who lead by example. So in terms of leading by example, De Ligt is that guy. Ronaldo's still that guy. And if you're talking about a captain in terms of having command over your team, I think Chesney has that command over his team, and I think people respect him and look at him because they'll feed off him too. And he's yelling at the line, he's yelling at the defense, and I think so. I don't think Chiellini coming in is a lifesaver, but what I think it is a morale boost. I think people are so comfortable knowing that they have one of Italy's best defenders behind them that there's just a little bit more relaxation in terms of we can feel a lot more comfortable. Let's play a little bit more freely. But my thing is, if you have a guy like Chiellini and De Ligt who play exactly the same, are you then still more susceptible to guys getting behind you? I think the idea of the De Ligt and Bonucci pairing working is because one kind of does the opposite of another. It's a yin and a yang thing. So if you have 2 people doing the same thing, is it going to actually even benefit the team? I don't know. But I don't think Chiellini's going to bring that special thing that we've been missing. I don't. I think De Ligt has already brought that, and I think Chesney is the other guy that can command the team, and then Ronaldo will as well. So I'm on the fence with that.
Well, I kind of challenge it in the sense that there's leading by example, which is great, which De Ligt does. I'm not challenging that, but he doesn't have the amount of time in the club there, and I think sometimes that kind of holds to that leadership thing a bit more. Same thing with Buffon. And with Szczesny, actually, it's funny that you bring him up because I don't get that feeling from Szczesny whatsoever. I actually see goals getting in on us, and I see the reaction from Chiellini and Buffon on the bench, and I'm not seeing that same reaction out of Szczesny. I'm seeing a very I don't know. It's funny that you brought him up. I don't get that out of them. With Ronaldo, what's interesting with Ronaldo is he also doesn't seem to me to be that same effect that he had last season as far as trying to lift the team. Was that he looks a lot more disheartened, disengaged, frustrated this particular term, and I'm losing that out of him. I'm seeing there's been matches like the Coppa Italia, for instance, both of those when we first come back from the break, and I said it. You could read it all over the guy's face. You can always tell Ronaldo what kind of mood he's in, and I'm just like, this guy is he's not right from the get go in those matches, and I'm seeing it more and more and more. I had a couple of Juventini bring up the question, with Ronaldo, and I totally understand. I'm going to leave this guy anonymous because everyone's going to know why, because of the fanboys and how insane they get and whatnot. But he said Ronaldo creates issues for us. It is what it is. You can dissect the signing all you want, but literally, he said he creates positional issues for other players, and he's not necessarily adapting his game as good as this guy believes he can. He's still trying things a lot of the time that this particular fan seems to feel is kind of not playing to his abilities anymore. It's like things he used to be able to do very, very well are fading because in time, your speed, your agility, all that will not be at the same, level that you once were at. It's natural. You see that with players that go through injuries, but you see it with players that just as they age. And he's talking about that. And it's interesting because we passed the anniversary of Ronaldo's signing and whatnot. And I still say, that signing, you have to take it every single time. There's no way you don't add this guy. Is he creating problems? Yeah, but I don't think it's the problems a lot of us look at. I think the problem is, and what this problem that, is even labeled incorrectly as he creates it. He gives us a problem in the sense that after we signed Ronaldo, it came to light, at least in my eyes it did, of our shortcomings with moves. And how we were building our teams and what kind of transfers we were looking at, right? That's the kind of issue that comes to the forefront when Ronaldo's brought in. We were feeling we were here and this close, but in actuality, it was determined that we're actually about this far away from where we need to be. He shed light on that in a big way because we're you can add whatever fucking talent you want up at the top there because we just got one of the best, but you have a midfield that has been overachieving just based on the team results. And that's kind of the issue. And we just don't have enough support for the guys. But, your thoughts on this fan's take and the whole scenario and, because, for me, you always add them, but go ahead.
So,
Eric.
I feel like I understand what they mean by creating issues, and to me, it's the creating issues on the pitch. You have a player who always wants the ball. You have a player who's trying to do too much. In terms of like, I've seen him just, try to get fancy with the feet, easy turnover. I see a guy at this point can't win one-on-ones. I see a guy who kind of isolates himself. So in terms of like issues, I understand that, but I also am very in favor that you always make the signing. My thing is, I can't in confidence say that he causes issues based on the lack of tactics and scheme and players that he has around him right now. Like, how can you say and isolate and put Ronaldo in this bubble and saying he's creating these issues, and yet we have so many other issues that you're not even considering determining his level of performance? Maybe Ronaldo is the same exact Ronaldo that he was at Real Madrid, but clearly the system, the style, the players, there's so many things that are different that I can't confidently say he's causing problems.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Big one, our fullbacks. Yeah. It's laughable. It's laughable in my opinion. Our fullbacks situation.
He worked on the same side as Marcelo. You can't duplicate that. So, just to further your point.
Yeah, it's the whole thing. But yeah, there's so many parts building a team went up. But I've literally felt that for a while there, that just our methods are just backwards business, just necessarily. I feel like sometimes this team gets way too caught up at looking at the value of the transfer rather than does this actually make sense for what's happening on the pitch. I get that feeling more and more here. And again, one of the things I was hoping about this pandemic that it would bring to at least the market side of things for Juve is make them be a hell of a lot smarter with the moves they make and whatnot. Being limited on funds and having to be way more methodical is probably a beneficial thing for this club, because we've been loose, to say the least, for how we make these moves. So yeah, that's great. That's really everything I wanted to recap. I don't know why, but Douglas Costa got into something with a fan on Twitter there. And it just like the guy called him out for trying an elastico in the 80-something minute, 82nd, 83rd when you're down 2-1 and stuff. And Douglas actually responded and started getting into this back forth. And I'm thinking, for fuck's sakes, man, like, just stay the hell out of it, man. Like, and to be fair, I was losing my shit and pissed off that he was trying these things. Like, when he did this move that this guy was talking about, he actually had like 2 defenders on him at the time. And it's just like, move the ball, man. Just move the ball. But he's getting into it, and you see these things, and I think it's ridiculous. Sometimes, technology is a great thing, and at other times it's just like we're too close. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, it's too close. But ridiculous, absolutely ridiculous. Should he have engaged or just left it alone? I think he's just got to stay out of it.
Look, I get it. Athletes are humans too, and you get to a point and you feel overwhelmed, and your natural response is to do exactly what he did. I get it. I understand. My thing is, as an athlete, because you're in the spotlight, and there's going to be a lot of people that criticize you. There's a lot of people. I'm a firm believer in I actually tweet Bernardeschi. Whether he responds, sees it, I don't know. But the idea is that as an athlete, you have to understand that, like, even though I'm critical of your gameplay, it's still something that maybe you should take into consideration. I'm not saying you should let it discourage you. That's not what I'm saying. But at the same time, like, if someone's in support of you and cheers you on, like, you can't let that get to your head. You kind of have to meet both of those stressors with the same mindset. So should he engage with a fan negatively? Absolutely not, because it's a bad look for him and the club, and he already has conduct issues, which is, I think he's already got one foot out the door. Don't purposely walk out the door, So no, I'm never in favor of like any athlete, engaging in negative conversations with fans. Like if you're going to engage in something, focus on the people who are showing support for you.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree, man. I agree. Well, that's gonna wrap up this pod. Again, great result against a hot team. 2-2 draw with Atalanta. We're 8 points atop. But again, just Jekyll and Hyde. So we'll see what comes against Sassuolo. And I'll be back again with another post-match podcast. And hopefully we have a victory to celebrate. As always, thanks for listening, everybody. And we'll catch you after that match. As always, Forza Juve, fino alla fine.
Well,